Coming to you from an undisclosed location, somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains, I am your intrepid host, Elliot Marzulli. Welcome to what I'm calling Casual Monday. I mean, we know all about the Casual Friday stuff, but why not Casual Monday? Because Monday, we've had the whole weekend, and who wants to get dressed up and come into the studio? So I got my hat on, I got my work shirt on, I've been out messing around in the garden, but I want to talk about something that's really critical. Bank of England must plan for financial crisis sparked by aliens. That is the headline, and it's what are we looking at here? What are we looking at? The timing is incredible. We'll get into that first. A word from our very trusted sponsor, folks. If you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you build may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmicks, just clear answers and a strategy built around your goals. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com and build your portfolio for the long term. Once again, folks, noblegoldinvestments.com. We invested. There's talk about gold going to $5,000 an ounce. Today, it's around 4,300 an ounce. It certainly could do that. We don't know. As with any investment, there's always a risk. Please consider all the financial risks that you may be taking in investing. However, in my opinion, I think gold may reach 5,000 an ounce in 2026. That's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it. But you can't bank on that. Do your own research. NobleGoldInvestments.com, NobleGoldInvestments.com. Before I start rolling into this, I just want to thank everyone, to the over 2,500 people that signed up for the conference. All 50 states were represented. We had, I think, over 20 countries that were there. Really amazing stuff. So thank you for coming to the conference. We're still selling tickets. You'll be able to get the link and go see it. It won't be live, of course. It's all pre-recorded, but you'll be able to check it out. And if you've already signed up, you'll be able to access all the different speakers. I want to thank our speakers for making this such a great conference. Of course, Chauncey Green, man behind the scenes, our webmaster who put all of this together. All the graphics are his doing. Rachel Tolson, our social media director, did a great job. Hit it out of the park. Thank you so much, Rachel. Sonda Allison, who, again, is behind the scenes. She's my editor, but she acted as a liaison between myself and the speakers. John Adam X, who does all of our daily shows, just like you're seeing now. And, of course, my wifey, Peggy Marzulli, who copied everybody's email link that came in, and she created the email list, and she was working like all Friday. It was unbelievable. Anyway, thank you one and all for coming. Thank you, team, for making this happen. Thank you, speakers, for the great presentations. More than anything, thank you, Lord, for directing our steps, for watching over us and allowing us the opportunity to do this. So, we are the only people who are sort of pushing back against the narrative, the prevailing narrative. So here we go. Bank of England must plan for financial crisis sparked by aliens. A former analyst at the central bank has urged Governor Andrew Bailey to put contingencies in place to prevent collapse if alien life is confirmed. Now, why are they running this? Let's just stop right there with the headlines. In some ways, it's just like Abbey Loeb talking about a black swan event or a Trojan horse event, and I understand that. So it's good to get out ahead of what could be problematic. I understand that. But my email has probably gotten, 6 to 10 emails. Oh, hey, have you seen this? Yeah, I've seen it, and that's why we're talking about it today. I find it alarming that they're even running with a story like this. Why does the story, get legs like this? And to me, once again, is there a managed agenda here? Why are they releasing information like this? Okay, so let's continue. Let's walk into this and see what we have. The Bank of England must plan for a financial crisis being triggered by an official announcement confirming the existence of alien life. one of its former policy experts, has claimed, underline the word has claimed. Can we vet this? No, we can't vet this. Cool heads need to prevail. Let's not, start some of the farm and sitting on top of a mountaintop going, take me, take me. We're not going to be doing that, right? So something's going on here, and we don't know, how can this person whose name is Helen McCaw, how can she back up this claim? Well, I don't know. I'm trying to actually get her on my show. If any of you spiders out there can get an email for her, that would really be great. Shoot me an email, la@lamarzulli.net. I'd love to get her on the show and sit down and have a supposed tea and a chat about it. Thank you. But I digress as usual. So I find the timing of it incredible, especially on the heels of our UFO conference. Helen McCaw served as the senior analyst in financial security at the UK's central bank, preparing for events that could impact the economy. Okay, that's great. You remember, one of the things I talked about in my presentation, what if Donald Trump stands up on a Friday evening, and behind him are the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and his cabinet is all there, and they're basically looking, he looks right at the camera, and he says, we're not alone in the universe, which makes me, Captain, segue to this. Are we alone in the universe? And by the way, I'm gonna just digress here. When you go to 28, and we're gonna get into that, UFOs are real? Question mark, right? And so this is a true or false. UFOs are real. Let's see what Nat Geo has to say, but not right now. I'll hold that for a little bit. So I'm teasing you a little bit here, but I will get to that. This is amazing. But what if Trump stands up on a Friday night and goes, we're not alone in the universe? How does that affect you? How does that affect your Christian faith? Remember, what does Jesus warn us in Matthew 24? And he does it more than once. Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. Many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ. That's happening. Google that. Just Google it and watch all the people pop up. I'm Jesus. Excuse me, no, you're not. And that's all I'll say about that. So, circling back, backtracking my little breadcrumb trail here, the timing is amazing. And I think at some point, perhaps this year, Trump is going to stand up and announce that we're not alone in the universe. What does that do to your faith? How do you counteract that, especially if the church is here? Now, I'm going to read to something because you need to understand this. This is our little tract that we give out for free. If you buy anything, we give like 3 or 4 of these to you guys. I would suggest getting 50 to 100 and passing them out to everybody you know. So, there is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth's changes do not fit here any longer. They are stopping the harmony of the Earth. Channel information. It's in the book, Bringers of the Dawn. And we need to pray for Barbara, that she would understand the information that she's channeling. Maybe these aren't the good guys. Maybe you're being deceived. But that's why we need to pray for her. She's the one that the channel information is coming through. We don't disparage her. We're saying just pray for her. Pray for discernment. Pray that the veil would be lifted and she would see who these entities really are. Voice to skull, automatic writing, not good stuff. But I digress as usual. If that happens, everything changes. If Trump stands up and says that, everything changes. What about if he stands up and says that and 3 or 4 days later, the rapture of the church occurs? Doesn't that tie into exactly what I just read? There was a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during the time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. Think about that. And I talked about that in my presentation. Okay, so she has now renewed Andrew Bailey, the bank's governor, urging him to organize contingency for the possibility that the White House may one day confirm we are not alone in the universe. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not. There's the article. It's like right there, John. It's in the times.com. And it goes from there. McCaw, a Cambridge graduate, believes the declaration of that magnitude would send shockwaves through the markets and could trigger bank collapses and civil unrest. You think? Well, of course it's going to do that. If Trump announces that, or we have an event where mile-wide UFOs appear over any city, that's an automatic game changer. I have run with this. It's in my presentation. I've talked about it numerous times. It's in my book, Runs of Disclosure, and I'll harp on it again here, that if you get an announcement like this or a mile-wide crash, or if you have a nuclear device going off anywhere on the planet, Just one. I'm not talking about a nuclear war. I'm just talking about one nuke going off anywhere. What about if Iran launches something? What about if that happens? What about Pakistan? What about if the Russians, God forbid, drop a nuke on the Ukrainians? I mean, anything's possible, right? Who knows? What about if a rogue element detonates a nuke? I mean, we don't know. We are in uncharted waters, in my opinion. I'm not peddling fear here, but it's adding up. Men fade from fear from what's coming upon the earth. Jesus' words, not mine. So if you got a problem with that, take it up with him. Don't take it up with me. Men will fade from fear for what is coming upon the earth. Not from underneath it. Not from, Walla Walla, Michigan. Coming upon the earth. It's coming out there, coming in here. So what's manifesting? You tell me. What is manifesting right there? The whole UFO phenomena. Age of disclosure. Person after person after person, including Marco Rubio, heads of state, Kristen Gillibrand, senators, congressmen, all these people. We are not alone in the universe. We are not alone in the universe. We are not alone in the universe. So, civil unrest, you bet. They show up, everything changes. What if there's a nuclear event that happens, like I was just stating? That creates the greatest climate of fear that mankind has ever experienced together. What a perfect time to show up, when everybody's fearful and going, and everybody's connected. The internet is exploding. Everything stops dead in its tracks, right? Dead in its tracks if a nuclear event happens. Then what? And they show up and they say, we created all life on this earth. We genetically manipulated early man. We started the world civilizations. Now, at this critical juncture in human history, a nuke going off, you bet. We are back to usher mankind into a golden age. And by the way, we created you. We're the gods that you worshipped. Okay, do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. Let's continue. Until recently, suggestions that governments were covering up the existence of alien life were limited to a small group of conspiracy theorists and UFO activists. We're a small group of conspiracy theorists. I love the way they put labels on people. However, a host of senior American officials, including the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the New York Senator we talked about this, Kirsten Gillibrand, and James Clapper, a former director of national intelligence, have recently indicated their belief in the possibility of intelligent, non-human life. Look, in age of disclosure, there's one gentleman who looks right at the camera and goes, I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human intelligence, i.e. extraterrestrials. What are they really? And when we talked about this conference, and that's why we held it, and that's why it's going to be up. It'll be up. You'll be able to watch it through our streaming site soon. Rubio, a close ally of President Trump, told the makers of the recently released UFO documentary, The Age of Disclosure, we've had repeated instances of something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities, and it's not ours. There you go. We broke the story on this with Robert Salas in our Watches series. You need to do your homework. You need to go to our streaming site, streaming.lamarzulli.net. I believe it's Watches 10, and Robert Salas is featured in that. He was the commander of the Maelstrom base, where 10 intercontinental ballistic missiles were switched off like that. There was a 60-foot UFO that was hovering right over the gate. Hello. We broke the story in Watchers. That's how far ahead of the curve we are. And I'm not boasting here. It's all the Lord. The Lord's the rock star. I'm the roadie. Let's get that straight. Jesus is the rock star. L.A. Marzulli, the roadie. He guides our steps, yes, sir, and we do them. And here we are. But there it is. We broke the story in our Watches series. I believe it's number 10. Robert Salas. Salas goes, they turned off the UFO, switched off all 10 intercontinental ballistic nukes. They're nukes. Switched them off like that. How is it possible? A gray didn't manifest in the control room and go click, 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 click. That didn't happen. These entities manipulate space, time, matter, and energy in ways that defy our physics. In my opinion, they are waiting for a nuclear event. That's their go. That's conjecture. Underline the word conjecture, but that's what I really think is happening. And I think we're close to something. This month, the Sunday Times disclosed previously classified state files, which show that the British military sought to obtain extraterrestrial technology after receiving credible intelligence that UFOs appear to be real and could outperform any known human craft. McCaw, who worked for the Bank of England for 10 years until 2012, insists that politicians and bankers can no longer afford to dismiss talk of alien life and chuckle or snigger about little green men. The United States government appears to be partway through a multi-year process to declassify and disclose information on the existence of a technology, advanced non-human intelligence, NHIs, responsible for unidentified anomalous phenomena. Notice the way they're changing the verbiage. It just used to be UFO. Now it's UAP and non-human intelligence, NHI. If the UAP proves to be of non-human origin, we already know it is, we may have to acknowledge the existence of a power or intelligence greater than any government and with potentially unknown entities. They're setting it up. I mean, I'm not rejoicing in this, but they're setting it up. You got to see that. They're setting it up. Because if these guys show up in the craft and they could switch everything on and off, what are the world governments going to do? Is this the nexus? Is this the megalever that creates the one world government, the one world religious system, in my opinion? Absolutely. It is entirely possible that government leadership and their central banks have not been properly briefed on the topic. UAP disclosure is likely to induce ontological shock and provoke psychological responses with material consequences. McCaw added, there might be extreme price volatility in financial markets due to catastrophic or euphoria and a collapse in confidence if market participants feel uncertain on how to price assets using any of the familiar methods. There might be a rush to perceive safe assets, such as physical gold, that's already happening, other precious metals, and some type of government bonds. McCaw said the authorities should also prepare for unrest and an unprecedented run on the banking system. Even if you feel it's very unlikely, it's madness not to consider it and plan accordingly. McCaw has written a chapter on the subject for an upcoming book edited by Dr. Alex Wendt, a professor of international security and political science at Ohio State University. She had little interest in the subject of UFOs until she stumbled upon a peer-reviewed NASA paper entitled Unidentified Flying Objects in Classical Antiquity, written by the astronomer and planetary scientist Dr. Richard Stavros in 2021. I just thought it was a Hollywood thing and that it was only backward people that saw that, she said. I didn't know that the governments were studying them. Folks, you know, we're so far past the two guys in Pascagoula. We're so far past the weather balloon nonsense in Roswell. Are you kidding me? It's real, burgeoning, not going away. So let me just wrap this up here. A lot of friends just think it's absolutely crazy, she said. Sadly, there's just no point in talking to them about it because they won't even look at the information that's out there. My husband was really skeptical at first, but now he realized that this is a reality and a really serious issue. Folks, the church is exactly like this. You can't even talk about it to most pastors. And they walk away. This is a coming great deception. This changes everything. I have been banging this drum for decades, which is why we held the conference, and you can still watch it. Let's continue. I can understand why people would prefer to live in comfortable ignorance, but it's frustrating. The whole UFO community is just a bit Wild West, she said. I don't need to convince people who already know this is real, that it's real. What I need to do is to try to help the government and get the government people briefed. And in 2021, Barack Obama suggested that UFOs appeared to be real, but said their origin, whether man-made or otherwise, was unclear. So the Bank of England declined to comment. We're going to go to members only. I'm going to do two segments here. One is I Googled AI to talk about the Bank of England, and the other one is on the Nat Geo on UFOs. So we're going to go to members only. Let me wrap this part up by saying this. UFOs are real, burgeoning and not going away. You need to watch the conference for $20. There are 10 speakers. You need to get armed. You need to do your homework. It's coming down. It is. It is. And what are you going to do if Trump stands up? And that's the whole basis of the article. What are you going to do if Donald Trump stands up and says we're not alone? Isn't it interesting that McCaw signaled Trump? Not anyone else, not the Pope, not any heads of state in England or any through Europe or China or Russia. He signaled Trump. Why? Trump is the most powerful president, most powerful political figure on the planet. Let's face it. Get prepared. Understand the times we're living in. Crack your Bible open and look at Matthew 21, Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, the Synoptic Gospels. Read it for yourself. Men, faith, and fear was coming upon the earth. Even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. That's it for today. Don't go away. We'll be back tomorrow. Check out our conference. There are still links. You can still buy into it. Check out what we talked about with Robert Salas of Watcher's Den. Do your homework. Before I go, first of all, again, I want to thank everyone who came to the conference. But here's something to think about. An article like this creates a lot of fear, creates a lot of tension. But McCaw is not saying that Trump is going to stand up. She's only suggesting it. She's painting a scenario. This is, once again, why we did our conference over 2 days, to arm you with what we believe is the truth from a biblical prophetic narrative. Isn't it interesting how all this ties back into the biblical narrative? But you've got to crack your Bible open and you got to understand. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. I still maintain we go up, they come down. We go up, they show up. But in the meantime, if Donald Trump just stands up and announces that, what does that do to the church? That's why we held the conference. I'm going to go over to members only. Thanks so much for watching.